One of the things I most struggled with, especially when I was starting my YouTube channel, is what camera or what lens or what do I need to get started on YouTube? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the two cameras that I started with and that I still actually use 3 or so years later into the game. And of course I have done upgrades, but it's still the basic setup. And this is what you're going to need. Let's get into it. Hey, it's me, Steve WB, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about cameras and basic beginner setups, or what camera should you start with on your YouTube journey. And I'm going to go over the two cameras that I constantly use, or actually I'll even touch on a third, but the ones that are in my bag to this very day and the ones that I've always used. So let's get into this. Okay, so you can see in front of me that I have a couple or a few cameras, a microphone, a lens. Most of this is for show, but this right here is the basic setup that I use for all my YouTube videos and any like family vlogs or shooting that I do. And I'm going to go over both of them just so you know why I use what I use. Okay, so we're going to start off with GoPros. GoPros now offer very high quality. You get decent colors. You get good colors now with the GoPro Hero 10 and the natural profile. But they're robust. Their waterproof or water resistance is pretty good with the media mod, but they're only waterproof without it. And even though they don't have the best sound, you can buy things like the media mod, or you can get you an external mic, which I have to put it on the side over here. But anyway, I put it on the side like this, and I carry it on a little selfie stick or a little tripod stick. And this is what I do probably 80 to 90% of my video with. And the reason why I use this mic over the media mod mic, I just basically use the media mod as to give me a mic jack on my GoPro, is because the Deity D4 Duo is a really good vlogging mic because it has a good shotgun mic on the front and it's got a mic in the rear as well. And the mic on the rear automatically has a 10 decibel drop. Therefore, my voice holding the camera, I'm the closest to it, is going to be more equal to who I'm recording. Okay. And I like the GoPro because of course the stabilization is amazing. When I'm chasing my kids through Disney parks, or we're riding roller coasters, or whatever the case, this is just really easy to pop in and pop out and to shoot our videos. So most of my videos are shot on a GoPro, and the GoPro 10 shoots 5.3K. I watched this on a 72-inch television and it looks amazing. I mean, you get a really good picture out of this. Here's the downfall. GoPros have tiny sensors. And what do tiny sensors mean? Very low light performance, or very low light performance. So when you go into a dark area or the sun drops, this is going to fall apart. The stabilization is going to stop working. You're going to get a lot of noise and grain in the image. It's just really falls apart once the sun starts going down, or if you're filming in darker indoor areas and things like that. That is why I carry this. Now this is the Panasonic Lumix G9. It has a micro 4/3 sensor. As you can see right here, here's the camera sensor. Of course, that's going to be a lot larger than what's inside here. And even though the Panasonic Lumix cameras don't offer the biggest sensor in a more professional camera, they do offer a lot of features, including like 4K 60. This camera can actually shoot 6K 30. You can do slow-mo. They just have a lot of options. You can even shoot 10-bit 422 color with this thing with super high resolution images. So if you know what you're doing, you can really do a lot with a camera like this. And this camera is set at $1,000. And yeah, that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But for $1,000, you get a lot of features. Here's the downfall. If you notice, I got this little attachment on my lens. Panasonic cameras are notorious for bad autofocus. So I don't even own an autofocus lens at this point that I can vlog with. I have to do everything manual. I usually just set my lenses on infinity focus. I flip out the little screen and I go for it. And of course, I do use an external mic, and this is my evening, dark area, it's a small world, you know, dark rides, things like that. That's what I use this camera for, or fireworks shows, or once the sun goes down and I want to get a much cleaner image. As we said, of course, Micro Four Thirds is bigger than the GoPro Hero 10, but now, you know, the current fad with professional cameras are full frame cameras, which is a sensor is probably like 4 times the size of this one. And that's all good. Much better detail, much better low light, much bigger price tag. You're gonna, you know, be spending anywhere from $2 grand to $7 grand, 10 grand, however high you want to go actually. So I've kind of grown fond of the Micro Four Thirds system. They have made some recent upgrades to the autofocus, but like I said, I don't have a lens to test it to even see if it's good enough at this point. It may be. So to get back on the point of the video is, what camera should you start out with? Well, of course, the best camera is the camera that you have. Most people start with their cell phones. That's going to be my camera number 3. As a matter of fact, this entire video is being shot on the Samsung Note 20 Ultra with the Rode Wireless Go. You can see it right here. This is not my underneath sweater poking out. And it's an amazing, amazing device. The reason why I don't like vlogging with my phone, and the reason why I got the Note 20 Ultra, was to use it for vlogging, to carry less bulk. Here's the problem. It dies super fast. You fill your memory up really quick, and people like to call you while you're filming. Sure, you can put it on do not disturb mode and things like that, but your phone is your phone. You're using that to check data, get information. If you're on vacation, you're gonna, okay, where am I going next? You don't wanna be using your phone as your camera. It gets old. You can do it, and some people it doesn't bother. Me, I just like to keep the two separate. These are the 3 cameras I use, and this is the little DJI Osmo Action. This is a really good, super good budget version of an action camera, okay? This was a flagship camera for DJI 2 years ago. They just came out with the Action 2 yesterday, and the only way the Action 2 beats this is it's a little bit smaller and it shoots 4K 120 instead of 4K 60. You can get this camera for $185, $199. The Osmo Action 2 is going to cost you $515. This camera right here is going to cost you $499. Or if you get their discount and sign up for their monthly plan, you get $100 off. So a really, really good camera for a really, really good price. So if I was just starting, let's get back on task. If I was just starting out on my YouTube journey, probably the first thing I would start with would be a GoPro, because most of the time you're not going to be shooting at night anyway. I do a lot of night shooting because we go to the Disney parks and we stay late watching fireworks and things like that. In an environment like this, is if you have, like I have a little fill light right here, if you have okay lighting, this is going to do okay for you. You can get a lot done if you take the time to learn settings, in which I recommend that to anybody with any camera, whether it's your phone, a GoPro, or this. Learn what shutter speed, learn what aperture, learn your frame rates, and learn how they work and affect each other. And maybe I'll make a video on that in the future. But number one, get you something that shoots 4K, and you know, it can be in this form factor as a GoPro or a DJI Osmo Action. Now, after you do it for so long, of course, you're going to want to start learning more, part of the fun of YouTube for me is learning how to use my camera and how to get better with it. I watch a lot of big YouTubers like, you know, Peter McKinnon or Peter Lindgren, and they shoot some really amazing stuff with some really amazing cameras. And I want to be at that level one day. But once you decide that you want to step up your game, then try to venture off towards the DSLR way, okay? And it's an all-day debate as to what camera you should start with. Me personally, I would not really start with a Lumix G9. I would maybe go with like the Sony EV10 if you want interchangeable lens capabilities, or you could also go with just like the Sony EV1, which is a nice little point and shoot camera. It's got a fixed lens on it, but I mean you can zoom in and out and things with it. But they're more limited on your frame rate and your shooting options, okay? They're not going to give you as much as, say, like this Lumix camera. And if I had to do it all over again, I would stick with the Lumix camera, but I would get a GH5. The Lumix G9 is actually a flagship camera for photography, but it has some very, very impressive video specs. So I didn't know what I was doing when I bought it. I just got lucky and got a good video camera with, you know, buying something I didn't know. But other than Panasonic, you have Sony. If I could afford any camera, I would probably just get the Sony a7S III. It's a full frame camera. It's got incredible autofocus. It's got more modes than I would ever use. It's just a good all-around camera. But when you're first starting, you don't know how long you're going to do this. You don't know if it's, you know, something you're going to do forever, or if it's something you're going to even like. When you first start getting trolls, you know, you got to decide in your mind, like, can I deal with these buttholes and, you know, downplaying everything I do? They've never created a thing a day in their life, but they're going to criticize me because I make one mistake on a video. Makes no sense to me. But YouTube is a hard battle, so I wouldn't jump in and buy a $3,500 camera to make YouTube videos to get started. You can get this for $1,000 and you can really learn cameras on something like this. You can learn cameras on something like this. When I shoot low light with this camera, I'm constantly adjusting aperture or ISO or shutter speed because you can make it look better. But I kind of went off tangent a little bit, and I don't know if I've ever really answered your question, but let's do a quick little wrap up and put this in a nutshell. Your first few videos, first 10, 20 videos, use your phone. If it shoots at least 1080p, use your phone, put a couple videos out there, see if you can even stand looking at yourself on camera whenever you're doing editing, because I hated the way I looked and I hated the way I sounded when I first started. Now it's just another day when I hear it. If you're like, hey, you know, I kind of like this is going to be fun, I think I can do this, go up to an action camera like a GoPro. You can use this for just family videos, whether you make it on YouTube or make YouTube videos or not. It's something that you can always use. So it will be handy. And see what you can do with this. Another quick tangent is, you've noticed that every camera I use, I add a microphone to. Audio is key. You want to have good sound. But, so you start shooting with the GoPro and you're like, you know what? I'm gaining a few subscribers. I think I want to do this and make this a good viable second income, or maybe even a primary income. Then start moving up to your DSLR cameras. And whether it's Lumix, whether it's Canon, whether it's Sony, whether it's Fuji, whether it's Olympus, there's so many options out there. Just the key things that you want to try to get are decent autofocus and good stabilization, because you don't want to have to run around with a gimbal. And also what I really want to encourage as well is constantly educate yourself. You want to learn cameras, you want to learn ISO and shutter and aperture, frame rates. You want to learn how to use a camera, because if you learn how to use one camera, you learn how to use all cameras. And of course, they all different in menus and capabilities and things, but you need to learn those basics to make you a better videographer and photographer. And a lot of people stop there. They're like, okay, I'm a camera expert. But the number one thing that you need to work on is you. You need to work on your personality. You need to work on your camera presence. You need to learn how to be more charismatic. You have to be likable, because I'm not even good at any of that stuff yet, but I work on it. I try to make each video better and better, because I went from the monotone, welcome to today's video, to trying to be more dynamic. You gotta put more movements in there. You gotta change your voice. You have to show expression like you're talking to an actual human. When you're not, you're talking to a camera. But you have to remember that when you talk to that camera, it's gonna go to a human. And this video got a little bit off track, and I apologize for that. But like I said, the number one thing that I was always looking for information on when I was first starting is what is a good beginner camera. And I hope I've clarified that a little bit and did not confuse it with my tangents. But like I said, this was my beginner setup, and it is still my setup to today. And it will be a long time before I can outgrow these two cameras. I can make it very big or not make it at all with these two cameras. And if you're feeling doubtful, just remember, Mr. Beast, 60-something million subscribers, he got his first 200,000 subscribers with an iPhone. I'm Steve WB, and I'm out.